So to keep our pace and momentum, we shall now move forward to our panel 3 researches from the following panelists. So our first panelist is from the Virgen Milagrosa University Foundation, the University Research Coordinator and Planning Officer, to present survey on corporate social responsibility in Northern Philippines. We have Professor John Ramel A. Tumbaga.
Okay, so a very pleasant good afternoon to each and everyone. Actually, this research paper is not yet the final output of our research because of the fact that we are advised to carry out a research for the entire Northern Luzon. And thus, the research and extension coordinators of our university regarded this research as the initial result of our survey for the three regions in Northern Luzon, particularly the Ilocos region, Region 1, the Cagayan Valley, and the Cordillera Administrative Region, or the CAR. This research paper deals particularly in dealing with or determining the knowledge, the awareness, perception, and attitude towards corporate social responsibility. And based from the initial result of the survey, we have a total of 97 participants so far. We usually have this common connotation or description of what corporate social responsibility is. Actually, based from the etymology of CSR, we can actually delineate the definition of CSR into three. So we have corporate, social, as well as responsibility. Therefore, these three words pertains to the social aspect as well as to the environmental aspect of the society as a whole. And it cannot actually be prevented to focus on the economic worldview and on the ecological worldview. This is usually the common mistakes or errors of many corporations in the Philippines as well as in other countries and in other regions, because they cannot internalize the responsibility towards the environment, towards the community, or towards the society as a whole. Therefore, there's a must that we need to harmonize the relationship of the environment, the society, the culture, as well as the political aspect to really attain this, what we know as corporate social responsibility. And in tantamount to this CSR, well, we have this, maybe this CSR, or I can already say that CSR is, yes ma'am, next slide, is actually in response to the Millennium Development Goals in the past, from 2000 to 2015. And at present, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. I am actually predicting that the next goal after 15 years from now is what we know as Green Development Goals, because of the fact that many corporations at present cannot yet internalize the real meaning of corporate social responsibility. So we really need to reach out, and this is actually part of the UN Development Goals. Next slide, please. This was actually iterated by Dr. Yap a while back about the different versions of corporate social responsibility. And we have three. So according to this picture or diagram, so the first CSR talks about accountability. Then the second talks about strategic philanthropy. Then afterwards, we have the social innovation. Now, just to clarify, for CSR1, according to this particular dictum, according to the author, charities and organizations set up to provide help and raise money for those in need. On the other hand, when we talk about CSR 2.0, it's actually a unique and powerful way to combine the company marketing goals with the desire to increase the well-being of mankind. And again, highlighting CSR 3.0, which is also what we know as personal social responsibility. It's actually a novel solution to social problem that is what we know as effective, efficient, sustainable, or just than present solutions, and for which the value created accrues primarily to society as a whole. That's according to Stanford Business Center for Social Innovation. Next slide. Okay, since this research is not yet the final output of our paper, we actually utilize the survey instrument given by the Benita and Catalina Foundation. So that's, it's actually the 2015 BCYF CSR's research survey instrument. We actually utilized the questionnaire, and we decided to not to float paper, but rather it should be online because it's actually our initiative to at least reduce our carbon footprint. Okay, so we actually facilitated an online survey, but ironically so far for the past month, we only have a very few number of individuals who answered the survey. So for those participants who belong to Region 1, Region 2, as well as Cordillera Administrative Region, you can contact us so that we can send the link for a greater, let's say, retrieval of information based from the survey formulated. So based from the initial result, so a total of 97 responses, there's most of the respondents doesn't actually know what is corporate social responsibility. And again, this is the challenge among us. How can we convey or how can we share the information that corporate social responsibility is deemed needed in our society at present? So next. And when we asked the respondents, what is CSR or which is CSR? So based from the survey instrument, most of the respondents answered, it's actually an initiative to assess and take responsibility for the company's effects on the environment and impact on social welfare. Again, highlighting the social welfare or social aspect of CSR as well as the environment. And when they were asked about the objectives of CSR, most of the respondents answered that it aims to improve public welfare, among others. So, followed by it aims to enhance community trust and support. Then, it is directed at enhancing school or organization reputation. So, that's on the aspect of knowledge. So, we're done with knowledge. So, the next one is on awareness. So, again, take note that if we will be delineating the framework or let's say the concepts related to knowledge, awareness, perception, as well as attitude, it actually follows a cascading effect. So it starts first with knowledge, then followed by awareness, perception, or the like, and followed by attitude. And the last one will be practices. Therefore, the awareness on CSR has something to do as well with the knowledge on CSR. So it can be reflected in this result that most of the respondents are not aware on CSR. Okay, so these are the CSR activities conducted by school according to the respondents. Again, most of the respondents said that most of their activities are related to community projects, which is being followed by healthcare. Since our university is a health institution dealing with medical courses and medical programs, that's why most of the respondents came from our university so far. That's why they transpired the result into more on the healthcare aspect. And in relation to that, it is clearly observed in our university, particularly in our extension and outreach projects about medical mission as well as dental mission. So who are the stakeholders involved in CSR? Again, most of the respondents are actually students. Therefore, they claim that the stakeholders in CSR are students, which is being followed by top administrators. Then, in relation to participation as well as orientation, take note that based from the initial result, they are not knowledgeable and they are not aware about corporate social responsibility. They're actually insisting for the need for an orientation as well as participation. So almost all of the respondents need an orientation about CSR, and this is we are actually very lucky because most of our respondents are also willing to participate in corporate social responsibility, and that's actually a good thing in relation to this research. Now, in terms of involvement, so yes, I am willing to participate. I need an orientation, but are you really willing to involve in any of those CSR activities that you identified or that is currently being conducted by your school or by your community? And yes, they're actually willing to involve as well to CSR. And next slide, please. So what are the preferred activity then for involvement? Again, since most of our respondents came from our institution, thereby most of their, or the top one preferred activity deals more on the healthcare aspect, which is followed by community projects, then educational projects, and also environmental projects, even if we don't have any programs related to environment in our university, just like the BS Environmental Science or Environmental Management. But it is being known already by these individuals or respondents. Talking about the perception on CSR, the topmost answer is CSR in school should be completely voluntary. I don't know how come that these respondents stated that CSR should be voluntary. Maybe there's a stigma. We cannot yet generate a certain conclusion because the study is not yet done, not yet finished. Maybe there could be a reason why they answered more in this particular indicator. So it should be completely voluntary. And our university is also insisting that we will not be forcing our students, but rather they really need to volunteer wholeheartedly in doing these community projects, educational projects, and others. And these are the activities related to CSR that the school should pursue or conduct according to the respondents. So in relation to preferred activity for involvement, it's actually more on community projects. So again, this is the top answers so far that were presented. And in relation to the parameters that should contribute to or be part of the school's CSR, again, highlighting health and safety, then followed by mission, vision, and values, as well as environment. So these are the top 3 parameters. And when we ask the respondents about the definition or description of corporate social responsibility, take note that they are not knowledgeable about CSR and they are not aware about CSR. Thus, the responses are these. So, CSR is for all and take into consideration. Volunteerism, extension surveys, helps community, social. I don't have any idea there. So, it's a responsibility of the school government, etc., etc. Based from these different statements, we can therefore infer that they are not really knowledgeable or aware yet about corporate social responsibility. Next slide, please. So we have these different answers. So no idea. I think CSR will help a lot in schools improvements, but there's no particular description or definition of CSR. And next slide. No idea again. Good implementation, which is already off tangent with the question. Helping communities about school governance and others. So that's on the perception on CSR. So moving on, so knowledge, awareness, perception, then last, which is an indicator presented in the questionnaire, is on attitude. So talking about the attitudes, I cannot generalize yet the data presented herein. Therefore, I just highlighted which has the highest frequency for the different responses. So for the first one, their main reason in pursuing CSR, particularly this educational institution, is to enhance community trust and support. So, totoo nga po yung sinabi nila kanina that if we will be forming a link with the community, it will the school can gain profit. At the same time, they can actually gain the trust of those communities involved. Okay, so basically the research is purely raw data so far. So we are actually expecting to cover all the different schools. Perhaps maybe we will be assuming at least 500 respondents. So we will be presenting this maybe in the next forum. So with that, why do we need a corporate social responsibility? Well, we really need corporate social responsibility because our environment is continuously degrading. So for us to internalize or for us to manage these dilemmas or drawbacks of different corporations as well as institutions and to aid into these different problems, it's the time for us to really support and to share the resources to to the community as a whole. So with that, thank you so much.
So thank you very much to Professor John Ramel A. Tumbaga. If you have any questions for Professor Tumbaga, you can reserve them for later. We shall proceed with our second panelist, the high school principal of the Central Colleges of the Philippines, who will talk about social orientation and community outreach at the Central Colleges of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Marife Mission.
Good afternoon. Before I start with my presentation, I would like to thank Sir Tony Yap and Dean Leia Makatangay for providing me this opportunity to represent the Central Colleges of the Philippines. I do not want to start with an apology, but then I would rather let everybody know that I was tasked to present the social orientation and community outreach activities of the school, specifically the high school department, which now covers the junior high school and the senior high school divisions, wherein we have around 1,400 students. No matter how humble outreach activities are, for as long as they are done for the right noble reasons and the objectives are attained, such activities must be remarkable. We have always been faced with the comments that, oh, the same community outreach activities are done periodically, but then it is only with the consistency of such activities that we would be able to see the results. Because we cannot do with, for example, just one feeding program for the entire school year. If you promote a feeding program, it should be consistently conducted. Likewise, for other activities such as cleanup drives, the usual day-to-day activities that we've seen being done by the NSTP students and other outreach groups in our school, we might say, nakakaumay. But it is in the consistency, the repetition, day-to-day, week-to-week, that we would only see the results. We have to be patient if we want our community outreach projects to be successful. At the Central Colleges of the Philippines, social orientation and community outreach involvement are promoted in all departments and colleges through integration in the curriculum, such as I have mentioned earlier in the NSTP. We all know that NSTP is composed of 3 components. The military training service, or what used to be ROTC. Then we have CWTS and LTS. CWTS is Community Welfare Training Service, while LTS is Literacy Training Service. So NSTP is our training ground for exposing our students to community outreach programs, specifically CWTS. Then we have community immersion for courses in the different colleges. I do not know if in some universities and colleges we still have that part, specifically for the College of Education, where would-be teachers, aspiring teachers, have a 3-unit course where they do nothing except to conduct community outreach activities in their chosen communities. Then we have social awareness and community immersion in edukasyon sa pagpapakatao for high school. That's for junior high school. In our case, we have the community outreach club for our senior high school because they do not have any part in the curriculum where they get to be exposed in community outreach activities. So aside from this, we also have our Office of Student Affairs, which supervises the conduct of community outreach activities by various student organizations. In the high school department, every time an academic organization is about to conduct its culminating activity, like for example, this month, it's Buwan ng Wika, they would have to come up with at least 2 community outreach activities. We are not compelling them, but we are motivating them with the hope that somehow, by this, say, little exposure, they would get to feel the spirit of volunteerism. And I shall say we have somehow succeeded in that part because some of our students volunteer for future activities. So after having been exposed twice or thrice, they come to us requesting that they be included in other activities. Of course, I have mentioned these CWTS classes. Actually, in CWTS, our students are taught the good citizenship values. And good citizenship values would include, of course, CSR. Without CSR, then I don't know what good citizenship values must be over and above this one. Okay, next slide, please. That's still for NSTP. Okay. So, actually, the CCP, as I have mentioned earlier, CCP conducts the usual community outreach activities. Previous slide, please. Okay. Maybe for some nakakaumay, no? But these are some of the activities that we conduct regularly. Okay. Actually, we visit the patients of Pavilion 8 of the National Center for Mental Health every second Wednesday of the month. We bring a priest who presides the Mass, who officiates the Mass, and then the students who go with us get the chance to interact with the patient. So somehow they are able to at least contribute to the emotional well-being, spiritual and emotional well-being of these patients. Then after the short program, we provide them with snacks. So it becomes sort of a party. And we are happy that even patients who are, we know, mentally ill would always remember our students in the days when we are coming. So sometimes, like for example, last week, the pavilion was flooded, so we were advised not to come. And the patients were looking for CCP. We have the regular catechism class, which our campus ministry conducts every Saturday with the assistance not just of some faculty members, but some student volunteers, the members of our campus ministry. They are from junior high school, senior high school, and college. Then we have the literacy program, which is also every Saturday. the periodic recreational activities, and of course, the feeding program. The feeding program is integrated because when we fetch them in the morning at around 9 o'clock, we are obliged to offer at least simple snacks, or for some of them, it would serve as brunch. By the way, we serve the community. If you're familiar with Araneta Avenue Extension, that's just the bridge across SM Center Point. You might be surprised to know that there are 127 families living under that very small area with more than 200 children. When I first went into that area, I could not believe my eyes when I asked for about 30 children, and in front of me there were more than 100 in just 10 minutes. Okay. We have other activities such as the livelihood programs. Okay. Actually, for the livelihood training programs, different colleges conduct different training programs. Like, for example, the College of Engineering would conduct practical electricity, electronic servicing, and computer hardware servicing for computer engineering and our College of Computer Studies. Likewise, the students and the faculty from other colleges would conduct livelihood training programs that are aligned to their fields of specialization. Most common of which we know, soap making, but that's still in demand. From 2015 to date, I think we have conducted 3 soap making sessions already, and still last week they are requesting for that. We also have food processing, baking, cooking, and other livelihood training programs. When we conducted our tracer study, we were happy to find out that some of them got employed not just locally. There were 2 who underwent practical electricity and welding training programs under the College of Engineering who have been hired in Riyadh. And as of this time, I think one of them is still there. Although we all know that Filipinos are facing such crisis in Riyadh. We also have, just like the usual, we visit orphanages, and there were instances when we also had the chance to visit the inmates of the Manila City Jail. Okay, we conduct information dissemination on issues that need attention, such as anti-drug abuse. Actually, we always see to it that in our catechism classes and in our tutorial classes, we integrate not just anti-drugs, but anti-vices education among these children, because we know that due to their living conditions, they are the ones who are exposed to such, shall we say, unpleasant activities, even if it's not really their choice. We also conduct river cleanup, coastal cleanup, and in all these activities, of course, we have our partners. Okay. So in our case, community outreach activities are planned based on, first, it has been mentioned earlier, community needs assessment. We do it through survey instruments. At the start of not necessarily every school year, but say uh, community outreach plan session, we make sure that we have these instruments filled up by our beneficiaries. We also conduct house-to-house interviews because we would like to have an actual interaction with the people whom we are going to serve. We have been conducting community assembly in the barangay hall. Actually, the barangay captain and other barangay officials always welcome us. There was a time that we conducted an assembly with them, and we were able to enroll 317 students through the CHED scholarship. That was right after the assembly. Then we also consider the feedback and the assessment after each activity. We all know that this is a cycle, no? So we do the activity, we assess, and then we do again what they would like us to do. Because otherwise, we might be replicating the same activities that they do not want anymore. So much as we know that we've been doing this since time immemorial, we've been repeating this, it is because this is what they want, and it is what they want because it is what they need. Okay. So for our partners, we have the Inner Wheel Club of Manila. Since time immemorial, IWCM has been assisting us in our NCMH outreach at the National Center for Mental Health. They provide us with toiletries. Sometimes they share with the food and with the other necessities that we give to the inmates, to the patients. Then we have the Rotary Club. For the Rotary Club, we collaborate with different chapters. Last time we had Rotary Club of Antipolo with us. The other time we have the Rotary Club of Manila. So it's just Rotary Club. Then we have the Philippine Coast Guard. The DILG has been our partner also, not just with NSTP, but with our other environmental awareness programs. Then we have the Bureau of Fire Protection, the ABS-CBN Foundation, and of course, our alumni from the campus ministry and the NSTP unit. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I was told that I am just going to present our community outreach activities. That is the reason why actually, it's funny, no? I've got around 45 slides. There are a lot of pictures of our community outreach activities, but when I got here and I found out that we are supposed to present CSR researches, I decided to include our current research. This is ongoing. This is for this school year. Okay. The effect of various community outreach activities in reducing school dropout rate of the children in Araneta Avenue Extension, the community that we serve. Okay. The community in Araneta Extension is one of the adopted communities of the Central Colleges of the Philippines. Although some families have been relocated to Bulacan, in Muson and in Pandi since 2016, there are around 127 families in the area with more than 200 children within the school age bracket. So most of them are in elementary and in high school. over the 200 plus students, there are supposed to be school age, but they should be in college, and most of them are already working either as construction workers, storekeepers, or actually some of them you would see in the streets nangangalakal. It has been observed that dropping out from school has been very rampant in this area. There were instances that we would bring children to school because they are along Aurora Boulevard begging for food and coins. So what we usually do is talk to their parents, then bring them back to school. But sometimes after a month or two, we would see them in the streets again. This study shall be conducted in order to determine whether specific outreach activities regularly conducted by the Central Colleges of the Philippines tend to reduce school dropout rate of the children in Araneta Avenue Extension. Okay. So for the problems, we would like to know what is the level of dropout rate in the public elementary and secondary schools of the children from Araneta Extension for school year 2016, 2017, and 2017-2018. Actually, the 2016 would be used as a basis of comparison for this school year. What are the reasons for student dropout? And okay, this study shall also investigate the effect of the regular tutorial and catechism classes in reducing school dropout rate of the children in Araneta Avenue Extension. Okay. For the methodology, the study is comparative and descriptive in nature. School dropout rate shall be measured in percentage. The effect of the specific community outreach activity shall be determined in terms of the change in dropout rates for school year 2016-2017 and school year 2017-2018. Data gathering procedure, the researchers shall coordinate with the barangay chairman and PUROC leader for permission to conduct the study. Likewise, permission from the DepEd Division offices of San Juan and Quezon City, that is where they go. We realize that none of them go to schools in Manila. Most of them go to San Juan Elementary School and Betty Go Belmonte Elementary School in Doña Imelda, Quezon City, and the high school students go to San Juan National High School and Carlos Albert High School. So parang nahati lang sa San Juan and Quezon City between those two elementary and two high schools. Likewise, permission from the DepEd Division offices where official school data will be obtained shall be sought. Okay. Focus group discussion with the school children and their parents shall be conducted. Interviews with teachers and school officials shall also be conducted by the researchers. Actually, the research will be conducted by the Community Outreach Club headed by their advisor, who is a senior high school teacher for social sciences. And the junior high school faculty who handles contemporary issues in the Philippines. I don't know if you want to see some pictures of what we have been doing. Okay, but one thing that I would assure you, when we do community outreach activities, we really do it with love, with care and concern. Actually, when we have feeding programs, our students make sure that the food are prepared the best way they could. So that somehow, actually, when we ask them to do such tasks, that somehow makes them realize that they are worth something. So they're proud. Sometimes they tell their parents, ay nagluto po kami ng pagkain ng mga bata. And last February 2017, actually during one of the parent-teacher assemblies, when we showed our parents a video of what we have been doing for our community outreach programs, their support kept pouring in. So in March, ang swerte ng mga bata, ang dami naming fund for our community outreach program. So the whole month, we were able to sustain the feeding program. So those children who are in risk of getting out of school were able to make it through the end. We were able to see them through with a very little contribution from each student. Actually, that has been the problem of most of our community outreach and extension offices. How do we force our students to join us? Actually, we do not have to force them. We have to motivate them. We have to inspire them. And if we are able to ask, if we are able to see some of them coming back, just like our campus ministry and our NSTP alumni, then we can say humbly that we have succeeded in our mission for our community outreach activities. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Marife. Please join Professor John. Sorry. Thank you po. Before we introduce the last, of course, but not the least, panelist, may I just remind everyone that inside your kit, you will find an evaluation form. We would like to know your feedback, your assessment of our conference, so we can further improve what we need to improve or continue what we need to continue. So for our third panelists, from De La Salle University to talk about creating solutions through research, please help me welcome Mr. Patrick Adriel H. Aure.
Thank you, Sir Harold. So good afternoon, everyone. So I think I'll be the last panelist for this afternoon. So I see that you're having food already. So at least you have the energy to listen to the last presentation for this afternoon. So, yeah. So while waiting for the slides to load up, so just a brief background of myself. I was a former intern under the Benita and Catalina Foundation. I think that was around 5 years ago, sir. Tama, 5 years ago. So thank you very much, Sir Tony, for giving me the opportunity to volunteer again and to give back. In the previous 5 years, so back in 2012, I was an intern organizing this conference together with my co-interns. And now, lo and behold, I am the one now presenting in front of everyone. So it's kind of, I feel the pressure. So the title of my presentation is called CSR, Creating Solutions Through Research. Unlike the previous panelists, I will not structure this as a formal research presentation, but rather this is like a call to action so that students and scholars may be more inspired or may be more motivated to undergo research. So before I begin, who here are students? I may see a raise of hands who are students here. So all of these people are students and scholars or faculty. How many are here? I think the rest would be, yeah, scholars and faculty. So I had you in mind when doing this presentation. So next slide, please. So for the general review or contents of the slides will be why do research on CSR 2.0 and 3.0, how we can study it as faculty or as students, and call to action or a research journey towards doing applicable research for CSR. So yun, as I mentioned a while ago, I was a former intern and now current volunteer of the foundation. And at De La Salle University, I am a full-time faculty teaching management, CSR, and human behavior in organizations. And CSR is very close to my heart. This is my thesis. And together with some co-faculty, we do research on social enterprises, sustainability, business models, strategy, and innovation. So I come from the discipline of business, and now we're trying to bridge the gap from business towards social development or sustainable development. Next slide, please. So how did I start with CSR research? So my question was back then during my undergraduate year. So perhaps students may relate because you may be asked to do thesis. So during my time, I asked, is there another way to do business? And through internships and volunteer work with other foundations, and I realized that I had a skill for writing. I just treated research as learning plus writing. So do not be intimidated too much by the statistical formulas, the methodologies. What is most important for students is the motivation to ask what constitutes CSR research. How do we learn more about CSR? Because we can learn methods and techniques as we go along. The more important thing is we have the motivation to learn about CSR. Next slide, please. So before I proceed, I would like to clarify first the definition that I use in terms of CSR 2.0 and 3.0. And this is derived from the conferences back in since 2011 or 2012, I think, from Dr. Visser. So CSR 2.0 is basically talking about how do we embed sustainability and social responsibility in an organization's business model. This means that we go beyond the CSR programs. That means we go beyond charity or philanthropy. What we want to happen is the core tenets or values of sustainability and social responsibility, it is embedded in the organization's business model. Or the way they make money is reconciled with the way they help society. On the other hand, CSR 3.0, during my time when I was still an intern in foundation, I admit that there are times that I was confused. But over the years, to simplify CSR 3.0, it is how do we embed citizenship, sustainability, and social responsibility in our lifestyle. By lifestyle, I mean the way we spend our hobbies or the way we pursue our careers. So it's like being able to embody CSR 3.0 in designing our own career path with CSR in mind. Next slide, please. So in terms of why do we have this conference or why do we have research? So over the past years, I realized that for scholars, it is important to develop and test new theories. And also research enable us to enrich teaching, especially that most schools or higher educational institutions are mandating the implementation of teaching CSR among senior high school students and college students. For practitioners, I realized our research that they may need reason behind their rhymes, meaning the way they do practice, or maybe they have a bias for doing practice, but they appreciate having tools, frameworks, or better understanding of why or how the things they work are really working. And research helps the practitioners ground their theories in their practices. And really, they need also to maximize how they can impact society and financial bottom lines. So the next slides will be focusing on my experiences at De La Salle University, so research techniques, and an overview of student theses that were done since 2007 related to CSR and social enterprises. So DLS's mission in terms of research is to be a leading learner-centered research university, bridging faith and scholarship attuned to a sustainable earth and in the service of society, especially in the poor. So De La Salle University and other universities are in line in thinking that we need to satisfy the sustainable development goals. And really, this is the right time for us to do CSR research. So I am specifically under the DLSC BIRD, or Center for Business Research and Development, and also we do CSR research, so, focusing on trying to bridge faith and scholarship influencing policy and practice. So I tried collecting different research outputs of faculty, but unfortunately, it's not easily accessible. So instead, I focused on the student thesis researches over the past 10 years from 2007 to 2016. So using our electronic library databases, I conducted a search on the term CSR, social responsibility, and social enterprises. When I use the word sustainability, unfortunately, the word is has many definitions, so it derived many research which did not really fall under the definition of CSR 2.0 and 3.0. So at least I consider these 38 undergraduate thesis and graduate dissertations for this particular description. So next slide. In terms of trying to summarize the methods of Lasallian students, most of them use qualitative research. So on this left side, it's around 20 qualitative research, mostly using case study analysis, multiple case study analysis, and action research. But on the other hand, the middle bar shows the quantitative research done by thesis students, and it focuses on mostly statistical analysis of survey data or statistical analysis on financial statements. And finally, there were three studies that were done in a mixed method purpose. Right. So this is the graph showing naman how frequent different degrees or undergraduate scholars and graduate scholars use research. So basically, the degrees that did CSR research were corporate management, accountancy, management, financial institutions, psychology, and interdisciplinary business studies. That's for the undergraduate programs. But on the other hand, for the graduate programs, they were done by MBA students, DBA or Doctor of Business Administration students, Masters in Entrepreneurship, and Masters in Marketing Communication. Next slide, please. Okay. So these are the general topics that were done. So since we come from a business background, so they try to reconcile their background in terms of their degree with the research they've done for their thesis or for their dissertation. So most studies focus on finance, meaning the impact of CSR to financial statements of the companies. Second will be CSR programs of different organizations. Then the rest compose SME, human resource management, social enterprises, marketing, management education, and business ethics. So the next slide tries to show a more in-depth topic. I'm sorry for the small letters because the specific topics are quite many. But to mention a few, for finance, it's mostly focusing on impact to financial performance on the left side. For the CSR programs, they focus on corporate programs, government programs, and community partnerships. While for SMEs, they focus on family businesses, sustainability, and philanthropy. For human resources, they show focus on workplace environment, employing people with disabilities, performance appraisal, and organizational commitment. The rest of the topics mostly resemble what is described as a general topic. So social enterprises, marketing, and management education. Okay, next slide, please. So now that I've given you a background of how Lasallians do research, and now we have done through countless researchers from other universities, I was supposed to summarize the conference in a way that we discuss methods. But instead of focusing on methods, I'd like to highlight that in studying CSR 2.0 and CSR 3.0, maybe we can first ask, what is our unit of analysis? Because for CSR 2.0 to be effective, we need to study how organizations interact or how their systems interact within. So for example, for CSR 2.0, we can study big companies, or maybe the more accessible ones are SMEs, nonprofits, and schools. So maybe the general question is, with the expertise of your schools, how can we combine CSR 2.0 or how can we embed CSR in your organization's business models? So for example, in your outreach programs, maybe we can ask research questions in line with, how can we make it more sustainable? How can we make it viable in the sense that we don't rely on budgets anymore, or we don't rely on dolouts for doing your programs, school programs. On the other hand, one of the, I think, exciting areas to look at is how can we embed CSR in your students or in your faculty or even graduates' lifestyle. So for example, if your students are interested with entrepreneurship, instead of just teaching them the usual feasibility studies in entrepreneurship, how can we teach them to be social entrepreneurs? So how can we teach them to collaborate with other disciplines so that indeed CSR can be embedded in one's lifestyle and career. So instead of focusing on techniques, because techniques can be learned and be self-studied, let's ask interesting questions, and from those interesting questions, we can then design better research methods. Next slide, please. So Sir Tony asked me to pick out some research sources that are available online, which do not need subscription. So for example, we can look at the Social Science Research Network, Academia, ResearchGate, and Google Scholar. And also maybe it's a good idea for university libraries to collaborate with each other so that the subscriptions can be made available to all students, because this will eliminate replication of studies. So instead of trying to replicate studies, we do a wide literature review, then each school can have expertise, then we can have original research which can test or develop new theories. Next slide, please. Sorry for the technical difficulty. But basically, this is a slide that's just trying to share my reflections on teaching CSR. So basically, in my experience, the traditional way of teaching wherein the teachers try to download all information about CSR to students is not that effective anymore. So when I noticed that in today's students, unlike during my time when we can have longer attention span, so today's students seem to have around 10 to 20 minute stops in terms of paying attention to concepts, frameworks, and all those things. So I asked myself, how can we experiment and teach CSR in such a way that is more exciting? And I realized that trying to compete with smartphones, trying to compete with games and everything is quite a hard task if the only content we can share is conceptualizations. So instead, I'm trying to implement next term, or actually last term, I tried to implement flipping the classroom, wherein instead of me downloading or lecturing about CSR or how to do business properly, I assign it as readings. Then on the day itself, I offer questions or cases wherein students are challenged to come up with solutions. I think we can trust the students to learn on their own, but we are now the architects of learning activities. So based on our research, based on what works, we can try making them experience how to solve problems. And that, I think, is more exciting than trying to lecture everything and then asking them multiple choice questions. So we can maybe focus on testing the students' idea or ideation or design thinking capabilities. Next slide. So I'm near the final slides of my presentation. So basically, my call to action is for us to develop a CSR research agenda. So let's think of CSR as trying to first, how do we find creative solutions to root problems? So maybe we have done enough descriptive studies, or we have done enough studies that show programs. Now let's focus on problems that we want to solve. Because scholars now are in a good time or in a good era wherein we can collaborate better with practitioners and even graduate students on trying to solve real problems. Then next, given the many things you have experienced, given the developments in our society, CSR again, how can we challenge the status quo relentlessly? So how can we ask research questions that does not only maintain the status quo or propose solutions, but rather how can we ask research questions that challenge the status quo relentlessly? And finally, let's try to have a bias for new theories and new solutions that appreciate specific contexts while attempting to find transferable learnings. Meaning, instead of validating previously tested studies, let's have the guts, or let's have the balls perhaps, to try come up with research that may not be acceptable right away, but at least we're trying to have a bias for actually applicable solutions to social problems. So just to share, so my own research agenda focuses on trying to understand business models of social enterprises. So one of my participants here was Noreen back there. So we take her for her contribution to our thesis study, and for her contribution, we were able to finish it with flying colors during my undergraduate studies. But now as we move forward, there are many new frameworks, there are many new solutions, many new proposals being mentioned. So let's be aware of all those developments. Then to put a twist on it, how is this now relevant? How are the new learnings relevant to what we want to accomplish in the future? Because those things open up a lot of research opportunities. So we need not be limited on previously published research for our research methods, but rather let's push the boundaries on what we can learn about CSR and how we can improve the Philippines in general. Yep. So just a shameless plug. So actually, since I advocate CSR research, we are having the 5th National Business and Management Conference to be held in Naga. So if you have research studies, so for example, if some of the research questions I ask inspired you, you may want to contact the foundation, or also you may want to contact us so that you can submit your papers. So we can have a more engaging dialogue for CSR research. So I think with that, I end my presentation. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sir Patch. So we now proceed to the final open forum together with our panelists. Do we have any questions from the members of the audience? Can you just raise your hand if you have, then we can go to you for your question. Did we distribute papers for the questions? If there are none, maybe we can use the microphone along the aisles. Wala po yata. Na-overwhelm na po kayo? O, pauwi na. Kaya pa po yan. Come on, sige po. May natutulog na ata. Wala po. Galing ng tatlong panelists. Alright, so if there are no questions, we now proceed to the distribution of Certificate of Appreciation to our panelists. So once again, Sir Tony, may we request your presence in front. For now, we will start with the University of, Virgen Milagrosa University Foundation, represented by Professor John Ramel A. Tumbaga. Yes, sir. Yeah. So we will send his certificate as we proceed to the next part of the conferences. And then this certificate of appreciation is presented to Central College of the Philippines. And then this one is for the LaSalle University. And for our final part, to provide us with the summary and conclusion of today's conference, may I request the chairman and founder of the Benita and Catalina Yap Foundation, Mr. Antonio S. Yap.
I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. How many woke up ahead of me? Okay, so if I'm awake and you're awake, the rest should be ready to sleep. First, let us give a big hand to my Himig Antonian. They sing very well, right? I always ask them, let's sing Filipino songs. Maalaala mo kaya. Diba? Filipino songs are so beautiful. The conference today, I organized it this way. I told Ben Tihanki, Ben, give them a layout of everything CSR. And try to explain that what you're doing, which is, I guess they have done more than 50% of all the CSR research in this country under him personally. Let them understand what your experience has been. And I hope that when you see the slides and are reminded of this conference, there will be some useful things there that you can pick up. I remember when he did his first research, he called me, and we were talking about it and so on. And he was reminding me that when I was teaching in the graduate school, he was in the undergraduate. And I was saying, but you're better, because you're doing something that I know I have to do, which is to do research in my advocacy. So that was the first and most, I thought, informative way of starting the conference. You see, this 7th conference, like I said, has been a slow process to arrive at today. We took 5 years to explain our advocacy. By the way, on that Stanford thing, we combine their CSR 1 and 2 into 1. Because to us, charity and philanthropy go together. And their concept of 3, we put into 2 together with transformative. Because we think those are related. And that personal is a bit higher. Or if you like, is a bit more basic. And we did review almost all the concepts of CSR development we could find. On social enterprise, by the way, there are 2 downloadable manuscripts in our website. Feel free to visit it. One is called, here it is. Well, this is our internal bulletin. You can download it. Those are 2 issues about CSR. And then we have 2 small manuscripts at the end. One is called Defining Social Business. The other one is called Defining Social Enterprise. Please download them and look at, can you open it a little? And then we have, our first version of our social development model. We are now into version 2. As you know, everything as an academic is all about improving and so on. Can you open the Defining Social Business so they have an idea of what is there? Anyway, these are downloadable materials. Feel free to download them at your leisure, use them, throw them away. It's up to you. But we did try to do this well. It took us a few years to do this. It required meeting, how many? Maybe 100 different or 80 different organizations and people, consulting with those that we thought were important. So this, can you read them? I can't. Anyway, just go to the next page. These are straightforward manuscripts. We're not good at making long write-ups. Okay? Can you go? Yeah. This is different, right? This is correct? Okay. I can't read without my glasses. But anyway, can you go to the next page? Anyway, I don't want to take the whole afternoon. There are 2 bulletins on CSR. There are 2 manuscripts. There will be others that will be posted soon. We were debating whether to charge or not, and I said I'd much rather give them free for people to use. The case, yeah. That is a suggestion to the rest of you to do the same. Please go to bcyfoundation.org, post there anything you want to post, and give our growing community a chance to learn from you from experience. So anyway, that was the design. The first part was, let's talk about what CSR research has been done in the country. Then second part, let's allow different schools to share what they consider is CSR. Right? And I think we had a good mix. I like Mr. Oringo's presentation. I have to talk to him again. Because I also believe that research should start in the high school, just as I believe you should teach programming from grade 1. Programming is not for adults. We start with grade 1. So there are things like that that I was reminded of when I was listening to this enthusiastic, sinira mo pang sound system, di ba? Okay. While I was going out, I was not accosted naman, but I was approached by somebody from Manuel Enverga Foundation, and I really appreciated that. And he said, Sir, dito sa CSR Youth Awards, how do we participate? Although baka next year na. We had a short conversation, but I'm happy about that. Please, hopefully our website will be updated, visit it, but almost all the programs we have are done every year, and most of what we do is through the internet. So please recommend your students. I'm looking forward to seeing, like the person I saw from Cavite State University become a finalist in our award. And that shows you that it's not about the school, it's about the individual. So after the researchers, when I talked to Pats to talk, I told him, ikaw magsasara ng conference, ha? Put yourself in the position of somebody who's a millennial, not old like some of us, and talk about, so how are you looking at what you're doing? How can you do research? What kind of research can they do? Share it with them. So, si Pats has a nice WordPress account, Pats Aure. Visit it. He writes very good material. I want to steal what he writes. Kaya lang plagiarism is a sin. But he writes very well, and I think you will find that when you visit there, he actually makes us look good. We didn't do much when he was an intern. He's actually good to start with, just as Noreen Bautista over there has made our foundation better. So, at the end of that process, hopefully, when you leave, you will continue the conversation. Research is important. Now, I have a few tasks before I close. First, have you looked at the program, at the Philippine Social Responsiveness Week? We do have some sign-up sheets. Are anybody going to go or visit or join us in some of those activities? At the very least, if you are free, come on Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. here at Club Filipino. 1 or 2 representatives from school. It is free. When we have an awards, we take care of all the expenses. Just come. If you can tell us you're coming, better. Otherwise, you're going to stand up. The last time we did it, we had more than 40% overflow. We fed them, I guess, standing up by the pool. Maybe that was better. But anyway, it's a nice event. You get to meet true exemplars. Any participant here, any school here, can ask us to send to you those awardees to talk to your students. Please take advantage. We have a group called IS4A, the Innovators Society for Asia. It includes all the awardees from all our programs as a first step. Second step, all the other awards programs in Asia are now being evaluated by us to see who we will invite. So we have the Innovation Awardees, the CSR Youth Awardees, the Developmental Social Enterprise Awardees, and so on. They do get invited. We take care of it, just tell us. We'll send them wherever you are. Make them work. For example, Mr. Muyrong, who is our Innovation Awardee, who controls 90% of the ube business in the Philippines. So when you eat ube, it's coming from one person, whether it's Magnolia, Selecta, some food items, some bakery, it's all coming from one guy. You invite him, he will tell you, if you like, I can evaluate the land around you, we can create a farming program, I will teach them, I'll give them all the materials, I'll even buy it. If they can sell it for better prices, you don't have to sell it back to me. Most of the people who are in our Innovator Society who are awardees are like that. Please take advantage. There's always some community we can help. So please come for that. If you can go to San Carlos City, that would be better. Because on Thursday, August 24, that nice ride, balita ko masarap yung seafood doon, is for the first Philippine Summit, first Sustainability Summit for Education. And our basic advocacy, which we launched last August 16, a few days ago in Romblon, is all about having a personal zero carbon footprint. Do you have your Facebook page? Do you see that? My Zero Carbon Footprint. It's on FB. Please visit it, engage with us, find out. My advocacy is very simple. All these years, we have been talking about governments and corporations reducing the carbon footprint, and the whole world has failed. That's why the Paris Accord is a best efforts basis agreement. What I'm asking schools to do is commit yourself to a zero carbon footprint, even only 1 day a week. And then what you cannot do to save, plant trees and get carbon credits. And I'm sure if we do it, 1 or 2% of GDP will be affected, and that will shock the corporations and government. Because they have forgotten everything we do is about the individual. Whether you are in Pampanga, Pangasinan, every individual can save this planet. We can save it better than corporations. So, why not eat local once a week? Mahirap yun, ha? Eat local. Dapat walang transportation. You may be eating kamatis the whole day. But that's what a zero carbon footprint commitment is all about. So please come and join us in Pangasinan. I'm looking forward to it. On Wednesday, if you have a business school dean, by the way, VMUF is here. Accost them. Pahirapan nyo sila. Tell them, I want to go. Paano ako makakarating doon? Saan ako titira ng libre? Anong pagkain? Ay, hindi, mura, hindi libre. So, let's visit our fellow schools. If they can make me go to Romblon on a day I'm supposed to celebrate my foundation day, I move my foundation day to show them I'm committed to the zero carbon footprint. I move my birthday celebration. It was my birthday celebration. I moved it. We're not important. These causes are more important. Diba? Of course, if my wife is outside, you ask her if she was happy about it, that's another conversation. So please go there. On Wednesday, if you have a business school dean, we are hosting the National Social Business Summit at Enderun. At the very least, Enderun is a good cooking school, HRM school, one of probably the most expensive in the Philippines. Libre po yan. Libre yung pagkain. Come, be our guest. I asked Senator Bam Aquino to say a few words. I asked the head of DTI to say a few words. I asked somebody from the OST to say a few words. And then we will have a roundtable on one question. What is the status of social business in this country? Not social entrepreneurship, which is different. Not CSR-based businesses. Please come and get to know about that. It will be a 4-hour roundtable. Siguro naman after 4 hours. We're using the Oracle at Delphi method for consulting. I will be the moderator together with the president of Enderun, Ed Rodriguez. It will be an interesting morning. So I asked Bam, sabi ko, punta ka dyan on time, magstay ka muna. Then pag-usapan natin. Because Senator Aquino has 2 bills coming out related to this. And it's important that he gets feedback from other people. Okay, so that's the roundtable. And then tomorrow, if you want your students and deans of student affairs to be part of a group of people, we expect more than 1,000 student leaders to attend our 7th or 8th CSR Youth Leaders Congress in Angeles City at the Angeles University Cultural and Sports Center. That's 1,000 plus. There are people coming from Palawan, from Marinduque, from all over. You might want to drop by and see what is our dialogue with student leaders. They have to be leaders. Deans of student affairs are welcome. But the students must be editor-in-chief or president of the student council or head of the Student Catholic Action. But there will be over 1,000 there. So you're welcome to join us. That's just a picture of the secretary and I fooling around a few days ago in Romblon. So I agreed to sign an agreement with them, and I agreed to adopt some provinces. We will do all their projects in the whole province. We are a serious foundation committed to what we're talking about. So please, send email and ask questions. Do not be afraid, sabi ni John Paul. Let me thank all our speakers and panelists. Before you go, please Join me in front for a group picture. Before that, we'll have a group picture with everybody. Don't move. I'll go to the back. They'll take a picture from here. So we have a group picture. But thank you, and let's give a big hand to all our panelists today. Sabi ni Benti Yankee sa akin, holiday daw. So he will miss being in the... We will Photoshop his picture into that. Okay. I would like, therefore, to summarize today with three bullet points, if you like. First, it doesn't matter what your CSR is, but we all pray and hope you will have CSR projects. Two, if you want to learn more about CSR, inform us, and we will work out with you a way for you and your students and your teachers to be educated. We can even help you offer a course for a fee. For some people who are with us, corporations, NGOs, etc., do get to be interested to take training, especially mga civic clubs, ganon. So we can do that. We can do that. Sabihin nyo lang sa amin. Okay, so we can help you with that. We can give formal certificates. Medyo nakikinig sila when they see our name, so we'll be happy for you to use our name. So the certificate say it's from the CSR Academy of BCY Foundation. I think that's important. Nakakatulong yan sa trabaho. My friends tell me if your student has that, they will give them 25% premiums as well. Let us test them. Baka nambobola yung mga kaibigan ko. So that goes for Ramon Ang's group, Manny Panglina's group, etc. Because we're all together in a certain group. And when we talk, we always say, if we have students with experience, especially those who intern, bigyan natin sila extra. Kaya daw nilang 25%. Tingnan natin. Hindi ko alam. Baka naman lahat kami pagod na kami that day. Kung gusto nila magtrabaho sa Loyola, pwede rin doon. Kasama din natin yon. Cradle to grave tayo, from hospitals to memorial parks. So, the third is that research is our topic. We hope you'll do research, but we run research training programs. We are willing to work with anyone who wants to do research or review the research approach or programs. Buti na lang, marami tayong expert. The two persons I send normally, which you guys might want to check, one, his name is Ed Amistad. He's the founding chairman of the ASEAN CSR Network Pilipino yan. Former president of the League of Corporate Foundations. Siyang presidente ho ng CIIF Foundation. May hawak ng lahat ng coconut money. Okay? The other one that I sent is Dr. Frankie Roman. He has a PhD from Harvard. Pwede na siguro yon. But he was the head of the CSR Center of the Asian Institute of Management. He's very happy to go anywhere. Of course, si Norin, I asked her to go to Cordillera and other places. Pwede nyo rin imbitahin yan. Pag bundok, pwede natin siyang imbitahin kasi bata pa siya, kaya niya. So, these are my 3 bullet points. I hope you remember them. I hope you enjoy the afternoon. It is raining, pero blessing daw yan. Thank you again, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we officially end, let us again thank our friends and partners, the National CSR Educators Council, the Management Association of the Philippines, Association of Private Schools, Colleges, and Universities, University of Luzon, Virgen Milagrosa University Foundation, Central Colleges of the Philippines, University of Perpetual Help System, Lyceum of the Philippines University, De La Salle University, and CSR Research Institute. So I guess we can proceed with the picture taking.